What's going on, everybody? We are back with another spring practice report video. My name is Matthew Bruning. We are going to run through a couple of different schools today. Most of these schools have gotten through at least 2 or 3 practices. Some of these have just hit their first practice either today or yesterday. And a lot of schools are actually getting ready to wrap up kind of like their first part of spring practice, as some of these schools are heading into spring break, where they will take an entire week off before coming back and really getting into it and really kind of allowing us to get some nuggets out of this. As some of these teams haven't even really put pads on yet. They've kind of just been wearing shells. So there maybe not a ton that you can glean from some of this stuff, but we're going to do what we can, and we are going to start with the Texas Longhorns. If you've been watching social media, you have probably seen at least one, if not multiple, videos of one freshman wide receiver, Jonte Cook II. And on Wednesday, he looked phenomenal. Reports are that he had the best burst off the line of scrimmage and just seems to be providing something to this Texas wide receiver room that they have been lacking for multiple years, is the reports. I think Austin Nace, one of the co-founders here at Campus to Canton, said probably a couple months ago, I want to say he said it on Twitter, he might not have, said that he thought Jonte Cook could lead this team in receiving as a true freshman. I don't know that he'll lead the team in receiving. I do think he's probably going to be at least the second best receiver. I mean, we still don't know when Isaiah Nayor is coming back. He is not practiced. He's still dealing with that knee injury. We know Xavier Worthy, had his ups and downs last year. Maybe that was because of the broken hand. I don't know. I can't confirm that. It definitely was more drops, but I also he struggles tracking the ball, and a broken hand doesn't affect you in doing that. Jonte Cook has just looked phenomenal from everything we're hearing. I mean, they're talking about how fast he is in and out of his breaks. His route running looks pristine. They're calling him, saying he's got lightning quick feet. I mean, they are doing nothing but praising this dude in a room that, again, has Xavier Worthy, who many people believe is going to be a first-round pick in 2024. I just think that speaks tons to how good this freshman is. I think he's going to be on the field in game one as a starter, and I'm excited for him. I think he's going to be really good. Moving over to the quarterbacks really quick, it really seems like this has kind of become, not that this wasn't unexpected, but the Ewers Manning stuff, like it is just going to be about these two guys. So the reports were that Ewers looked really good in the beginning part of practice. Did miss on a few deep shots, which we saw him do in games last year. But as the things went on, he got really sharp and really started to connect on those. The reports were that Manning was really good, extremely sharp in the intermediate and short area, but kind of struggled going deep down the field. So we'll see. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but it is good enough. Maybe he's still trying to kind of figure out these wide receivers, as he is obviously kind of new with the team. But all the reports are those two are clearly well ahead of everybody else. Malik Murphy has still not practiced yet. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know who the 4th-string quarterback is, so it's not that surprising. However, there was one more player who was drawing rave reviews in practice on Wednesday. This is from Wednesday's practice. One J. Don Blue, who juked linebacker Jalen Ford out of his shoes in a wheel route and just looked phenomenal, specifically in the receiving game. But so did Cedric Baxter Jr., which I did want to point out. Many were not sure what he was going to do in the receiving game. We did not see a ton of that in film. While Jadon Blue definitely looked, they said, the best out of all the running backs in all the practice, a lot of these guys that were watching this were very pleasantly surprised by Cedric Baxter's receiving ability in the receiving part of those drills. Now, should take into a factor this definitely kind of leans toward the running backs with the kind of reps that they were doing, apparently, because the running backs know exactly where they're going in the routes, but it was more the hands that Cedric Baxter showed. So stock up for Jadon Blue and Cedric Baxter. Still expecting Jonathan Brooks to be the leader in that backfield, but it looks like they've got 3 really good options. Moving on over to Washington, there's still not much going on here. They're still in shells. They did go practice outside today. And the reports are that both quarterbacks struggled a little bit here. Michael Penix threw an interception with his first pass. Dylan Morris also threw an interception. This seems to be more, though, because of the pressure the defensive line was getting on the quarterbacks. They were just destroying this offensive line, which is not necessarily what you want to hear. It's still early. Maybe this is getting turned around as Washington is I would imagine by the time the season gets here, going to be projected as one of the Pac-12 favorites because of what they are returning on offense and defense, but not great that their defensive line was really kind of tearing up that offensive line and causing issues for both quarterbacks. Moving over to Ohio State. Kyle McCord took all of the reps with the ones outside of one set that did go to Devin Brown. Both looked impressive. So Kyle McCord did throw an interception. I did not see that Devin Brown did. So I guess Devin Brown does have that up on him in this week or in this practice report. But we'll see if they mix that up. I mean, Ryan Day has said that while McCord is ahead of Devin Brown, he has said it's a competition. And so far through a couple days in practice, it sounds like Kyle McCord is getting most of the run with the ones, and Devin Brown is getting just a few goes with the ones. A positive report, though. Both Emeka Egbuka and Julian Fleming were working on the sideline, and Brian Hartline did say today that he expects them to be back by the end of spring, which is good news. We thought they were not coming back until fall. Not that we need to see anything out of either one of those guys. I think we kind of know what they are. I do think this speaks more to like these second-year wide receivers and Caleb Brown and Keon Grays. They need to do something. Kojo Antwi, they need to do something. They need to do something quick because if Mecca and Fleming are coming back, it's limiting the amount of reps that they're going to get in practice. Kind of a funny story here. So Travion Henderson had to get yanked off the field. He tried to jump in and do some running back drills. Still in and out of a boot, recovering from the foot surgery. But I would imagine if he's out there trying to go through drills, he's progressing just fine. I have not seen anything on if they're expecting him back in spring. I'd imagine he's probably not coming back till fall. And I did want to just address one thing on the Marvin Harrison Jr. thing. I know he addressed it as well, but if you didn't see it, everyone just relax. There was a video of him catching punts, and everybody's like, how can you put the best wide receiver in college football back returning punts? Guys, he was just practicing catching. That's all he was doing. He wanted to get more practice catching the balls coming from different and weird angles compared to catching it from a quarterback. That's all he was doing. He's not returning punts this year. I tried, in our work Slack, I explained that to some of the people. They did the same thing last year. He actually did the same thing last year. And Travion Henderson did as a freshman. Like, it's just to give him a little bit more extra reps catching the ball. Moving over to LSU, this one is a little bit interesting to me. So not a lot came out of this practice. They did start up today, March 9th, the day of this recording. But the reports are that Garrett Nussmeier and Jaden Daniels are expected to split first-team reps, but as of now, Daniels is the starter, and it seems like there's this kind of weird internal battle at LSU and how much first-team reps they should give Garrett Nussmeier. It's going to be very intriguing to see what happens here. I mean, obviously, Jaden Daniels for fantasy had a really good season. I think you could argue for LSU as well. They won multiple games. They upset Alabama, double-digit win record. Not something at least I was expecting out of LSU this year. But I don't think it's unfair to say that in that bowl game when Garrett Nussmeier came in, in the SEC championship game, when Garrett Nussmeier came in, the team just looked a little bit better, and he clearly looked like the better passer. I don't know that he's going to start over Jaden Daniels in week one, but I do think this is definitely something worth monitoring. Trey Holly and Noah Cain are the only two running backs currently available for the team. John Emery has been reported by Brian Kelly earlier today, said he needs to focus on his academics before he gets back on the field. So we'll see what happens there in the running back room. One cool note I did want to mention here from LSU is 2024 quarterback Colin Hurley, who is I believe he's top 10. I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. But he is at practice and will be all week as he is on spring break in his high school, and he is there with the program trying to kind of get used to what the play calling is going to be like and just the atmosphere in general. I do think that's kind of cool that he's already there and kind of being with the team. Now, he's not practicing, he's not doing any of that. He's on the sidelines, but just getting to kind of learn all that and see it, I think in first person, I think is really cool. And everyone's kind of favorite tight end breakout this year, Mason Tyler. I don't know if you guys did know. I did not know this. I just found out today is actually out for all of spring. So not great, but he's still going to be, I think, a massive fantasy guy this year. Staying in the SEC and going over to Arkansas, nothing really. Practice notes wise, there was nothing released. They did, however, update some weight changes for the team. I just kind of wanted to bring those to your guys' attention. So Raheem Sanders is now up 10 pounds, listed at 6'2", 237. AJ Green is down 3 pounds, now listed at 5'11", 205. Wide receivers, Sam Mbake is up 1 pound, now listed at 6'3", 203, and Isaiah Satenga is now up 5 pounds, listed at 5'11", 178. Going over to the AAC in Cincinnati, not much was talked about here from the quarterbacks except for, well, Emory Jones was getting the most pub, just having the best day so far. He got the most, as the quote went, oohs and ahs from the media and everybody that was there watching practice. We'll see what happens. Third team, I believe, in the third year for Emory Jones. But let's be honest, Ben Bryant was actually not horrible last year. Evan Prater was not at all impressive. So we'll see what happens. I imagine this is still a fairly open quarterback battle, but nothing else was really said about the quarterbacks outside of Emory Jones impressing. The running back battle, though, here, Miles Montgomery was the one getting the run with the ones, and reports were that he looked good. However, Corey Kiner was said to have looked the best out of both of those in practice and seems to have slimmed down a little bit. Now, I could not find a listed weight on him, but he apparently has slimmed down, doesn't look as big, and looked fairly explosive in practice. Last but not least, Washington State transfer Donovan Ollie has strung together 2 good practices for the Cincinnati Bearcats and is making a name for himself for these one-handed and sideline catches. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Cincinnati seemed to kind of be lacking that guy last year. Maybe Donovan Ollie is going to be the one who steps up. He had a really good spring with Washington State last year from what I remember. Moving on over to Florida, not much to report here except for the offensive line. Got a ton of love from Billy Napier and some of the other coaches. Just talking about how well they slowed down the defense today and how well they protected for Jack Miller and Graham Mertz. Speaking of Graham Mertz, he is also getting a lot of love from his teammates and the coaching staff on just how much he has improved daily and his overall work ethic. Still no reports on how he's looked in spring, but hey, coaching staff and teammates are praising you. I think we all kind of expect Mertz to be the starter. We just don't know exactly what this offense is unfortunately going to look like. Last but not least, we're going to go to the North Carolina Tar Heels, who have quite a little bit of notes here. This is what I love teams like this. Texas, UNC, Ohio State. You go and you can find all kinds of notes on these teams. I wish all teams were covered this way. So let's dive into it really quick. Tez Walker, for a second day in a row, has looked phenomenal. Extremely big, extremely fast. He has stood out against this wide receiver group, by far the best so far. If I worried you with my last report on Nate McCollum, who a lot of people, the transfer from Georgia Tech, who a lot of people thought was going to be in the slot and looking really well. Gavin Blackwell was in that in game 1. Well, Nate McCollum looked solid out there, though Doc Chapman was ahead of him today in the slot. I mentioned Tad Hudson on the last report video, looking really good. Same thing against A. They talked about how great his arm looked. I mean, he looks like ease, apparently, throwing the ball down the field. However, there has been now some comments about how his footwork looks, especially when he's following up Drake May. He ran mostly with the 3s today, with Connor Hale running with the 2s, whereas Tad Hudson was running with the 2s in the last report. Running backs, Elijah Green got the run with the 1s. Amarian Hampton was going with the 2s today, and Amarian Hampton was behind Green running with the 1s. George Pettaway was with the 2s as he was paired with Connor Harrell. So with the receivers, we've got a little bit of some clarity, or at least for this practice, on what it looked like. Drake May had Elijah Green with him running with the 1s. Kobe Paysour was running in the slot with Gavin Blackwell and Devontae Walker on the outside. They did have Nesbitt in some at tight end, and they moved him around. We all love Bryson Nesbitt, who's a guy we talked a lot about in the spring last year. So he did not stick around in the tight end position. Matter of fact, when they had 2 tight ends out there, it was Morales that was up there as the traditional tight end blocking, and they moved Nesbitt around to the outside and into the slot. So just wanted to point that out. He was being very versatile. Nate McCollum was a slot wide receiver on the second team offense with Connor Harrell, flanked by Andre Green and John Copenhover. So just wanted to point that out. And I did forget to mention, and I should have brought this up with, goodness gracious, who was it? Texas. Really quick before we get out of here. Savion Red, wide receiver last year, true freshman wide receiver last year. Steve Sarkisian has said he plans on using him like a Deebo Samuel. He has converted to running back and has been running with the running back, but they do plan on still putting him out there as a wide receiver at times and kind of using him that way. So maybe an interesting stash. I thought that could be a role Ryan Niblett took. The true freshman wide receiver that signed with him, he's an explosive athlete, but does struggle catching the ball. He has not yet joined them. So it looks like Savion Red might be in that role. Going to be fairly interesting. So that will do it for us today. I don't know that I'm going to have one on Friday. We'll see what happens. I've got a lot of stuff going on, but I will try and get to one over the weekend, as a lot of these schools, again, as I mentioned, they're about to head in their spring break. So they're all kind of wrapping up this first set of practices before they take a break for spring break and come back. So if this is the last you see of me for the next couple of days, guys, enjoy your weekend. And we'll be back with these at least. If I don't come back with a Friday or Saturday one, I for sure will be back probably with a massive Monday one. My goal is to get you guys one more by the end of the week. Everybody have a great weekend.